I work as a traveling consultant, which means I practically live in hotels. After a while, all the rooms start to blend together. Same furniture, same stale air, same dim hallway lighting. I've gotten used to the late-night check-ins, the half-asleep front desk clerks, and the eerie silence of empty hallways. However, this trip changed how I see hotels forever. I had just checked into a small hotel in a quiet town. It wasn't a chain, just a locally owned place with a long, empty hallway leading to the rooms. I got my key, dragged my suitcase to my door, and was about to go in when something made me pause. At the far end of the hallway, a man was standing there, just watching me. At first, I assumed he was a guest waiting for someone. But the longer I stared, the more wrong it felt. He was too still. No phone, no luggage, nothing. Just standing there. I quickly let myself into my room and locked the door. I told myself it was nothing. But that night, I had trouble sleeping. The next day was uneventful. Meetings, emails, dinner. By the time I got back to the hotel, it was past 10 p.m. I walked down the hallway, half expecting to see him again. He wasn't there. I sighed in relief, let myself into my room, and locked up. But just as I set my bag down, I heard footsteps outside. They stopping right in front of my door. I held my breath and crept toward the peephole. To my horrific surprise, it was him. The same man from last night standing right outside my door. He was just standing there, like he was listening too. I backed away slowly, my heart racing. I grabbed my phone, debating if I should call the front desk. But after what felt like forever, I heard him walk away. I stayed awake the whole night. I was supposed to check out the next morning. I told myself I just had to get through one more night. That evening, I got back to my room earlier than usual. I walked down the hallway, my eyes flicking toward the spot where I had seen him before. Nothing. Still, I locked my door twice. I wedged a chair under the handle just in case. At 2 a.m., I woke up. Something had startled me, but I wasn't sure what. Then, the doorknob rattled. I shot up in bed, my body frozen. It wasn't just a quick jiggle. Someone was trying to turn it. I stayed completely still, heart pounding, body flush with adrenaline. The rattling stopped. I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Just sat there, clutching my blanket like it could protect me. Then, after a long pause, I heard footsteps walking away. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. As soon as the sun came up, I grabbed my bag and practically ran to the front desk. I told them everything. The man in the hallway, the footsteps, the knocking. The woman at the desk gave me a weird look. "Sir, you were the only guest on that floor last night." I stared at her, my stomach twisting. "No," I said. "There was someone outside my door." Whoa. After checking the security cameras, they saw a man that fit the description of the lurker I had been seeing days prior. I left without another word. I used to live in a tiny studio apartment in an older building. The kind where the floors creak no matter how lightly you step, and the pipes rattle just enough to make you paranoid at night. It wasn't the nicest place, but it was cheap, and I had never been the type to scare easily. At least, that's what I thought. It started small. I'd wake up to find the cabinet doors open, even though I knew I closed them before bed. My keys would go missing, only to turn up in the weirdest places, like inside my bathroom cabinet or on top of the fridge where I'd never put them. Then came the sounds. At night, when everything was silent, I'd hear soft creaks above me, like something shifting. At first, I told myself it was just the building settling. It was old, after all, but the noises started getting more distinct. One night, while I was lying in bed, I swear I heard breathing. Not my own. Not the pipes. I turned my phone flashlight toward the ceiling, half expecting to see something peering down at me. Nothing. Still, it left me uneasy. I started double-checking my locks, making sure every door and window was secure before bed. And yet, the weirdness kept escalating. One night, I came home from work later than usual. My shift had been exhausting, and I just wanted to collapse onto my bed. But the moment I stepped inside, something felt off. The bathroom door was slightly ajar. Now, that wouldn't have been weird, except I always closed it before leaving. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was just being paranoid. But as I got ready for bed, I noticed something else. The blanket on my couch was bunched up differently than how I left it. It almost looked like someone had been sitting there. And then, in the kitchen, I found something that made my stomach drop. A half-drunk water bottle sitting on the counter. I don't drink Coca-Cola. I checked my door. Locked. Windows. Locked. And yet, someone had been inside. I barely slept that night, jumping at every sound. The next morning, I called my landlord, asking if maintenance had come in for any reason. He said no. At that point, I knew I wasn't imagining things. Someone had been in my apartment. That night, I got home and decided I needed to check something. For the first time, I looked up at my closet ceiling. There was a tiny crawl space hatch. I'd lived there for months and had never opened it. The landlord never mentioned it, and I assumed it was just for insulation or wiring. But now, I wasn't so sure. A horrible feeling settled in my gut. I grabbed a chair, stood up, and slowly pushed the hatch open. It was dark, the kind of dark that eats up all the light. I hesitated, then lifted my phone flashlight and shined it inside. At first, I saw nothing but dust and cobwebs, but as my eyes adjusted, I noticed something that almost made me fall over. Greasy, smudged fingerprints on the edge of the opening. Someone had been up there. Or worse, someone was still up there. I ran out of my apartment as fast as I could, slammed the door shut behind me, and called my landlord, demanding that he come check it immediately. An hour later, I got a call. There was evidence that someone had been up there. Granola bar wrapper and drug paraphernalia. Someone had been living above me, and I had no idea. I moved out 2 weeks later. Now, whenever I stay at a hotel, I keep a chair against the door. I ended up checking out that day and filing a police report. I haven't been back to that hotel to get an update, but the hotel said they would handle it. I hope with God they did. I used to work as a delivery driver for a local pizza place, so I was always driving around late at night, dropping off orders in all kinds of neighborhoods. Most of the time, it was pretty uneventful. Drunk college kids, tired families, the occasional weird request. It was a slow Wednesday night, and I was covering for a coworker. Around 10:45 p.m., I got an order for a pizza with no toppings, just cheese. The address was farther out than usual, past the city limits where streetlights got sparse and the houses were farther apart. The GPS led me down a long, empty road lined with old trees. Finally, I saw the house, a single-story home with a dim porch light. I pulled into the gravel driveway, feeling uneasy. There were no cars, no lights inside, just complete stillness. I double-checked the receipt. This was the address. I grabbed the pizza, walked up to the door, and knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I sighed, pulled out my phone to call the customer, and that's when I saw that the address on my phone wasn't the address on the house. I had stopped at the wrong house. I turned to leave, and that's when I saw the curtain move. Someone had been watching me. The curtain in the front window had shifted just enough for me to see a figure standing there, tall, unmoving, completely still. It scared the hell out of me. How long had they been standing there? I hadn't heard a single sound from inside the house, and yet someone was there. I fumbled with my phone, trying to act normal as I backed away from the door. Then, the porch light turned off. I immediately started running back to the car. I jumped into my car, threw the pizza onto the passenger seat, and sped out of the driveway. My heart was pounding as I pulled back onto the dark road. I didn't even care about the actual delivery anymore. I just wanted to get away from that house. I kept checking my mirrors, feeling more paranoid by the second. And then I saw headlights. A car had just pulled out from that house. I couldn't see the driver, but they were tailing me hard. I sped up. They sped up. My hands were gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I didn't know what to do. This road was empty for miles. Then up ahead I saw a gas station, bright, with cars parked outside. I floored it, swerving into the lot at the last second. I threw the car into park, grabbed the pizza, and sprinted inside. The clerk looked at me, confused, but before he could say anything, the car that had been following me drove past the gas station and kept going. I stood there, heart racing, watching those taillights disappear down the road. I never got a clear look at the driver. Never found out who was in that house. After 20 minutes or so, I left the store and drove back to work and told my manager everything. They gave me the rest of the night off. That was hands down the scariest thing I've ever experienced. I used to work the closing shift at a 24-hour diner in a quiet part of town. Most nights were slow. Just a few truckers, night owls, or drunks stopping in after the bars closed. I got used to the routine. The empty booths, the buzzing of the neon sign outside, the way the parking lot felt too quiet after midnight. It started around 2 a.m. The diner was empty except for one of our regulars, an old guy who came in every night for coffee and left before 3. Then, the bell above the door jingled. A man walked in. He was tall, thin, wearing an old hoodie with the hood up. His face was shadowed, but something about the way he moved felt wrong. Slow, deliberate, like he was thinking about every single step. He sat down in booth 6, right in the middle of the diner. I walked over with my notepad. "What can I get you?" He didn't look at me, just stared down at the table. After a few seconds, he muttered, "Coffee." I nodded and walked away, glancing over my shoulder. He never moved. I brought him his coffee and went back behind the counter, pretending to clean. Something about him put me on edge. He wasn't looking at a menu, wasn't checking his phone. He just sat there staring straight ahead. Then, after a few minutes, I realized he was staring at me. His hood was still up, but I could feel his eyes locked onto me, following my every movement. The diner was empty except for him and the old man in the corner, who hadn't seemed to notice. I turned away, pretending not to care. But my hands were shaking. Time passed. 30 minutes. An hour. He never took a sip of his coffee. Never touched the menu. Never spoke. Just sat there. I cleared my throat and walked back over, forcing a polite smile. "Hey, We're about to close the inside soon. Do you need anything else?" He didn't answer. I shifted uncomfortably. "Sir?" "Nothing." Then he smiled, not a friendly smile. Something else. Something wrong. I stepped back, my pulse hammering in my ears. "All right, well, have a good night." I turned away quickly, heading toward the counter. That's when I heard the booth creak. He was standing up, but he wasn't leaving. He was coming toward me. The old man had left, meaning it was just me and him. I forced myself to stay calm, pretending to wipe the counter as he slowly walked past me, toward the door. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The bell jingled as he stepped outside, and I exhaled in relief. Then he stopped. Through the diner's front window, I could see him standing in the empty parking lot. Just standing there. He turned slowly, facing me through the glass. And then he waved. I ran to the back, locked myself in the supply closet, and called my coworker, who was coming in for the morning shift. By the time he got there, the man was gone. I told my manager everything the next morning. She let me check the security footage. And that's when we saw something even worse. After he left the diner, the man didn't just stand in the parking lot. He walked around the building, pacing, watching, waiting. Then, at one point, he tried the back door. He tried to get in. But what scared me the most, that wasn't the last time I saw him. A week later, I walked to my car after a late shift. And he was there, standing across the street, watching. I never worked a night shift again. I work as a bartender in a busy downtown area. Late shifts are normal, and I'm used to heading home in the early hours of the morning when the streets are quiet and most of the city is asleep. I thought I had seen it all. Drunk customers, fights, weirdos. But one night I almost didn't make it home. It was around 2:30 a.m. when I finally left the bar. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few scattered cars left from other employees. I felt a weird sense of relief as I stepped outside. It had been a long shift, and I just wanted to get home. But as I walked toward my car, I got this feeling like I was being watched. I paused, glancing around. The streetlights cast long shadows over the pavement. The only movement was a plastic bag drifting across the lot. I shook it off, telling myself I was just exhausted. I unlocked my car, got in, and shut the door. That's when I felt a shift in the air, like I wasn't alone. I buckled my seatbelt, started the car, and put it in reverse. But as I looked up at my rearview mirror, I saw something. A shape, a figure. Someone was in my back seat. For a second, my brain couldn't process it. It was just a dark shape, motionless, barely visible in the dim glow of the dashboard lights. Then I saw it, a face. Pure panic shot through me. I didn't think. I just reacted. I threw the car into drive and slammed the door open, rolling out onto the pavement. I hit the ground hard, my hands scraping against the asphalt, but I didn't care. I scrambled to my feet and ran toward the bar. I turned around just in time to see my car jerk backward. Whoever was in my back seat had moved into the driver's seat. And now, they were trying to steal my car. I ran inside, yelling for help. One of the bouncers rushed out with me just in time to see my car peeling out of the parking lot. The cops came 10 minutes later. They found my car abandoned 2 blocks away with the engine still running. But the man, gone. I made a police report and they caught the guy a few days later. He was a repeated offender of assaults and robberies. The scariest part? When the cops searched the car, they found something on the backseat floor. A box cutter. He ended up admitting that he had planned to rob me of my belongings and then the car, but I had reacted too quickly. Now, I definitely never get into my car without checking the backseat first. I work as a delivery driver for a local courier service. Not food, but packages. Most of the time, my job is pretty boring. Just driving around, dropping off parcels, and scanning them as delivered. But one delivery still keeps me up at night. It was a rainy Thursday evening, and I was almost done for the night. I only had one last stop before I could clock out. The address was far off the main road, down a long gravel driveway surrounded by thick trees. I could barely make out the house at the end, a small, run-down cabin with a single porch light flickering. I parked my van, grabbed the package, and jogged to the front door. No doorbell. I knocked. Nothing. The rain was picking up, so I knocked again. Harder this time. Still nothing. I pulled out my scanner to mark the package as undelivered, but just as I was about to turn around, the door creaked open. A man stood in the doorway, middle-aged, thin, with sunken eyes that made my stomach twist. He looked like a creepy ghost man from a video game or something. He stared at me without blinking. I forced a polite smile. Hey, I've got a delivery for..." Before I could finish, he reached out and grabbed the package. He yanked it out of my hands like he had been waiting for it. And then he did something that made my piety senses tingle. He smiled. Not a friendly smile, something else. Then, without saying a word, he slammed the door shut. I stood there for a second, confused. Most people at least say thank you. But whatever, I just wanted to leave. I started walking back to my van when I heard a muffled sound, like a voice. I stopped. The sound was coming from the house. At first, I thought it was a TV, but then I heard it again. A voice. Quiet. Panicked. Help me. I felt my heart skip a beat. I turned back to the house, staring at the door. The voice was faint, but I heard it again. Please. Help me. I took a step forward, then stopped. This had to be a prank, right? Or maybe I was imagining things. But then, a loud thud echoed from inside. Like someone falling, I took another step toward the door, my brain screaming to just leave. And that's when the porch light flickered off, plunging the entire front of the house into darkness. I didn't wait. I sprinted to my van, heart pounding, and jumped in, locking the doors. As I fumbled to start the engine, I glanced back at the house and saw the man standing at the window, watching me. His face was just barely visible behind the glass. But the worst part? He wasn't alone. A second figure was behind him. A woman. She looked terrified. Before I could react, the porch light flickered back on. I peeled out of the driveway so fast my tires kicked up gravel. I called 911 the second I hit the main road. The cops went to check it out, but by the time they got there, the house was empty. No sign of the man, no sign of the woman. Just an abandoned, run-down cabin with a single empty box sitting on the floor inside. I still wonder who she was. If she was really in trouble or just a part of a sick joke. Or worse.